So first up, source capital, how do we assess a deal? So if anyone doesn't know who I am, then I am Derek Pratt, Commercial Director of Source Capital. And in short, anything that we do that involves credit will pass my desk at some point. So everything that we're talking about today is based on real life, isn't just based on theory. This is, this is how we do things. And, so pretty much, if you've heard me say it or you see it on here, it will be factual. So, if you ever need to take a task or you think, hang on, that's not what Del said when we talked about it, challenge us, because there shouldn't be anything on here that isn't what we do day to day. So first question, and I think this is the backdrop to everything. Is there an appetite to write deals? Is Source Capital in the in the market to write new loans? I think that's a pretty big question and probably the right place to start. I'd say that the answer to this is unequivocal. Yes, we are. Please remember who and what we are. Source Capital only lend to source franchisees and partners. You are our only client base. Now, clearly, some of you have heard me say this before. If you've been in any of the inductions or you've been on any of the Q&As, clearly, you're not under any obligation to use Source Capital. But I can assure you that Source Capital only lend to sourced franchisees and partners. So as such, it's the only way we make our money is to lend money. So just take it as a very simple view that our investors, we're a peer-to-peer lender. Our investors put money in for us to lend it out. We only make money when we're lending money because that's where that's where our income comes from. It's from, it's from fees. So, bog standard, unequivocal. Yes, there's an appetite to write deals. We have investors wanting to invest. Or we want to find those right loans that we can put those deals into. So if we want to lend money, what are our lending policies? Well, there aren't many, to be fair. We are a secured loan provider. Our policies are that we lend a maximum of 70% loan to value, but that can be based on gross development value. That is where we hang our hat. It's ultimately what are we lending against the completed project. And that 70%, if I think this is important to clarify, yes, others may headline that they will lend up to 75 or another number. That 70% is based on the capital lend. So no deductions for interest. It's the capital lend that's going out there. So what else do we need? Well, as you can see, so it's the first legal charge, UK-based property. Maximum 70% loan to GDV. I don't know it says loan to value on the slide, but it's the gross development value, the completed scheme. Fairly clearly, we don't lend to anything that's illegal or immoral. That I think that's just good common sense and good order. And as it says on that slide, everything else is very much in play. So, we don't have geographical restrictions. There's no sector that we've got an absolute downer on. It's really, can you bring us a secured loan that ultimately makes sense? And this is, this is key for me. Yeah, it's got to be secured, but ultimately, does the deal make sense? Does it make sense for you? Does it make sense for our investors? Now, as it says on here, there will be facts and there will be opinions, but the key issue to everything is the ability to add context. Now, because we don't have, we're not a big multinational, we're not a big PLC, we're not, we're not sat here with hundreds of offices that have to have very strict dictatorial guidelines or policies as to what people can do to make sure there's consistency across that organization. We've got the ability to be flexible. That is our biggest asset when it comes to what can Source Capital do for you, the franchisees, the potential borrowers, is we can be flexible in structure. We can be flexible in process. Certain things are an absolute must-have. but ultimately, the ability to add context and the ability to make a judgment based on the individual merits of each individual case is absolutely vital, I think, from your point of view as a borrower. And that, if there's one thing that comes out of this, that's what I hope you take away, is that, each and every case will be assessed on its individual merits. And if there's a way we can do that deal, we can find a way of delivering that deal in a way that works for you, that works for us and our investors, then that is our ambition and that is our objective. So it says on here, facts versus opinions. I'm a firm believer that the facts are the facts. Now, yes, you can interpret the facts, and you can, we get into the world of statistics, I guess, stats and damn lies, isn't it? But we shouldn't ever be disagreeing over the facts. People are entitled to opinions. Will our opinion always match yours? Possibly not. Will our opinion always match a professional valuer's opinion? Possibly not. But, we need to accept the fact that people have different reasons to opine in different ways. However, whatever is factual is factual. So, I think this is, what's the scenario that I'm really trying to get to here? We should all agree, if we understand what you're looking at, what you want to do with that, and where you want to end up taking that deal, then the actual facts within that deal, are going to be the facts. And it might be that, that's what it's costing. That's what you've got to put into it. That's going to be the cost. Opinions around that will be ultimately, is that cost actually enough given the abilities of that contractor? There'll be loads and loads of different things in any deal or in any walk of life, to be quite honest, that people have opinions on. But, what we want to do is contextualize everything. And if there's a way we can make it acceptable, that is what we'll do. This is a bit sort of Janet and John, and it goes back to, I've been sort of lending money now for whatever it is, 36 years. And I think these lending mnemonics were some of the first things that we were ever taught back in the day when I was working for a certain UK PLC bank. And that's what it says. The mnemonic is CCC parts. Various parts to that. The capital, the character, the capability. This is all about the borrower. Ultimately, are we backing the right horse as that borrower? Does it need capital going in at the start? Does it need some kind of comfort that borrower may need to put some money into the deal? I don't know. Each deal will be totally different, as will the character of the borrower in each individual, as will the capability of the borrower in each individual deal. But, are they things that we'll always look at, i.e. who is the borrower? Yeah, we will. Now, the massive advantage that we have in Sourced, as I said to you earlier, we only lend to source franchisees. So by definition, we know that transaction is to someone who's working in the property sector, who's dedicated themselves into the property sector, who've committed funds into being in the property sector and are being trained in that property sector. We know that this isn't a deal that's being farmed all around the country by different brokers trying to find, a weak link that they may be able to put something that's not entirely factual. And I'll come back to the earlier slide. If it's not factual, it's arguably an untruth, isn't it? But we know that isn't happening. So yes, we've got the borrower, and then you get into the actual mnemonic, the parts, which is all about the deal. What's it going to be used for? How much is needed? How's that going to be deployed? The repayment or the exit is another way of describing that. How realistic is that? How robust is that? Does the term of the loan give enough time to do what you want to do and allow for contingencies? The same way as the amount needs to allow for contingencies. And then ultimately, what is the security? How robust is that security? And how does that security work during the period of the loan? Now, is that fairly basic? Is that what you would expect? Well, do you know what? Yeah, but they're probably the building blocks of every deal that that anyone in any organization will be looking at. So, you know, when lending becomes more subjective is, you know, none of these will work in isolation. None of these will work as a silo. Yeah, it might have great security, but actually, if there's no way of understanding how that loan's going to get repaid, then it's not a great loan, is it? Ultimately, all we're doing is putting you into something you're not going to be able to get out of. You know, you might want as shorter term as possible, and some of you that have been on funding calls will know that it's a big key issue of mine to make sure that you've got enough time in that loan. Big advantages with source capital are, you know, there's very, very, very rarely any kind of penalties to come out of a loan early. So there's no benefit in you building in some kind of cliff edge into the deal that doesn't need to be there. So any loan that we'll talk about, we'll want to make sure that all of those issues in there, you know, the purpose, the amount, the repayment, the term, the security, are all wrapped up neatly into the deal. And any of you that have seen the credit reports that we write will see that, you know, yes, they're not under these exact headings, but these are the building blocks of any deal. Another mnemonic that works very much the same way. So you've got parts, which is the one there. This one's Campari and ICE. Obviously all designed to help idiots like us bankers understand the basics of lending. But look, if they're easy to remember and you think about these things, they will apply in some way, shape or form to every loan. So again, we come back to character, the abilities of the borrower. Does that make sense? Of course it does. You know, and like I said, each and every deal we will look at will be different. And please don't misunderstand the process here. We deal with a lot of people that are massively inexperienced. That doesn't matter. All it means is we have to find ways of mitigating that, or make sure that the deal is appropriate for that level of experience. And certainly if it's not, then we find a way of mitigating out where there's weaknesses and shortfalls. It doesn't mean we can't do it. There is no policy at all that says you have to have done X number of deals. You must have X amount of money. You must have a minimum contribution of X. None of those things exist. It's all about assessing all the various parts of the deal. So as you can see there, the character, the ability, you know, the margin is, in this instance, really looking at the profitability of a deal. You know, where are we on contingencies? Purpose, again, does it make sense? You know, I've put that on a slide earlier. That is my sweep all to everything. Does the deal make sense? Is there enough in that loan? How are you going to get out? And the insurance in this instance, under Campari, it actually means the security. It's kind of how has the lender insured themselves against the deal. So again, a lot of crossover to the previous deal. And these are, when it comes to the ICE, for you as a borrower, we're thinking about, you know, you need to build in all the other costs that relate to any transaction. Now, you know, we will always do that anyway, but it would be prudent clearly for you. And I don't think we ever see a deal where the borrower hasn't already considered this, but you can see why Campari and ICE works. Campari, all about the loan, and the ICE, when we're looking at the costs, you know, the interest costs, any third-party commissions that you need to pay, any fees that you need to pay. The extras will be, you know, it depends what that scheme is, valuations, it might be monetary surveys, it might be building warranties, be legals. Just make sure all of that's in the deal. So when you're, you know, when it's you or whether it's I, am making an overview or looking to take an overview of any deal, you know what? Just put it around these key principles, these key areas, and you're not going to be a million miles away from how we're going to be looking at it. So we look at it, we think, yeah, we've got a deal that makes sense. I think I'd like to do this deal for you as the borrower. You know, you're the proposer of this transaction, and you start, well, you know, how much will Source Capital lend? You know, if there's no policy, then that's certainly, you know, it's difficult, isn't it? Well, the answer is It depends. That's the only honest answer I can give you. You know, if we, you know, there's certain things that any loan, you know, you'll hear us talk about loans up to £2 million is kind of the zenith of where we go. Well, it isn't, it isn't. It might be. But you might have a loan that we can stage fund, and you might actually, the whole cost of that individual development might be more than £2 million. So don't really focus too heavily on any key metric. You know, it absolutely depends. If you're a first-time developer, you know, is it sensible or prudent that you say, right, I'm a first-time developer, I want to self-procure it. It's a really difficult build. I've got no money in case it goes wrong. I've got no contingency, and you know, I want to borrow 100% of the cost, and that works out to be exactly 70% of the loan to GDV. You know what? You add all that together, it probably doesn't sound that clever, but other deals will absolutely lend 100% of the costs. So, you know, let's double back to what I said before. Each loan looked at independently. Apply context to each and every loan. You know, let's focus on the facts. Let's base an opinion on that, and you know, let's find a way of getting you where you want to get to. There will always be a desire to support. You know, if that comes to us, and that comes to us as a funding call after it's been through you and your support team, we're going to be trying to find a way of doing that deal. You know, it doesn't mean we will always be able to do the deal, but you can rest assured that if the only way we make money is to lend money, as I said right at the start, and you know, Source Capital is there to support the franchisees in our sister company, of course there's a desire to support. We want you to be successful. If you're successful and we have a successful loan, everyone wins. Our investors invest, they get a good rate of return, they get the cash back. You make a profit on a deal that, you know, you've been able to structure with us in a way that gets you where you want to get to. And from our point of view, if we sit in the middle of lenders and borrowers, so lenders being investors, borrowers being you guys, and both sides achieve what they want to achieve, then, and it fully repays in the way it's meant to, yeah, we've done our good job as well, which means those investors want to invest more, and so the cycle goes on, and it helps us you know, be the success that we are. So yes, there's the desire to support. A balanced approach is needed. Of course it is. You know, not every deal works, and just because you have a deal calculator that says it makes a profit, it doesn't mean it's a good lending proposal. Just because you've got security doesn't mean in isolation it's a good lending proposal. We're not a pawnbroker. You know, we're looking, you remember that the exit is one of those options, whether you're looking at parts or whether you're looking at Campari and ICE. How do we get repaid? How do you, the borrower, repay us, you know, that loan and come away with surplus cash, which is what the whole objective is. So it's a totally balanced approach, and ultimately that has to be deliverable. You know, there's no point us talking to you about a loan saying yes, 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 if actually we think no. You know, there's no point, is there? That's why we have a funding call right at the start of our process, so we can understand the deal, understand what it is you're looking for, and then try and find a way of finding a solution that's absolutely deliverable for us against our requirements. You know, and we make no secret about it. You know, I'm not sat here pious saying that if it's not a deal for Source Capital, it means you cannot get that deal anywhere else. You might be able to, in the same way that we'll look at deals that others will say no to and we'll say yes to. Yes, there's an opinion. Yes, there's a balance of risk. But more importantly for us, you know, when we're looking at deals we can do that others can't, it's because we've got flexibility of policy and that genuine desire to support and for you guys to be successful.